All right. Mic's on. Level's good. Mixer's on. All right. What you got, Dizzle?
Oh, Ninja, we're a week behind, man. We got too much show. I don't think we have enough energy to get through this show. I don't know what we're going to do. Natrix, what do you think?
Kitten, I think what I'm saying is that sometimes shit happens, someone has to deal with it, and who are you going to call?
All right. I think I know what you guys are asking. I'll get a hold of my contact at NASA.
Do you think he'll do it again?
He might. Well, I mean, what choice do we have?
I don't know, man. I guess. Give it a try.
Yeah, can I speak to Dexter? Hey, Dexter. Hey, it's Rick the Ninja from Red Herring Radio. Hey, buddy. Look, we're in a bind, and I hate to ask you, but I think I'm going to need to ask you for that favor again. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I know you get heat for it, but if you could just do us this solid this one more time, it would really help us out for the finale. Awesome, dude. You are the man. We will give you a shout-out tonight. All right. Thank you, Dexter. Thanks. It's coming through now, Dizzle.
Awesome.
Warning. The opinions shared on this show are those of free-thinking individuals who without payment or coercion chose to be here and share those opinions with the world. This podcast may contain language, opinions, and ideas some people may find offensive and or controversial. Listener discretion is advised.
From the land of 10,000 lakes. This is the Red Herring Radio Splendiferous Post-Holiday New Year Spectacular Solar Orbit Cycle Anniversary Super Amazing Long Post-Production Razmantagical Fun Time Finale Extravaganza.
Woo!
Brought to you by City Water.
That was really good. I wouldn't say you would not have to do another take. All right. That was perfect.
Fucking, let's go with it then.
Good job. Rick the Ninja!
Busting out one take. That's all I do.
Yep.
this time. Oh yeah, that's right. I do stuff now, don't I? All right. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Rick the Ninja, joined in studio, as always, by Wally, Danger, Walberg, and the Natrix. And here's your host, B-Dizzle.
Thank you for joining us on our finale, everyone. Our special week behind, week late finale.
Yeah, there's an interesting story behind that, isn't there, Dizzle?
No, there's not. There's no interesting story. I didn't do anything. Nothing happened. It's just...
So what you're saying is
fate.
that...
It's fate.
So what you're saying is that in no way did we record a show, and then some of the files got corrupted, and then we are re-recording that.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's what happened. So, but thankfully, I did save some of the stuff from our last recording, such as 5 minutes with Just-Levi. He was here with us last week when we recorded the finale the first time.
And celebrated New Year's early?
It would have been such a cool show. I was so bummed. All right. So I'm just going to go around and say hi to everybody. Danger, how you doing, bud? Happy New Year to you.
Hey, what's up? Happy New Year. 2015, only 2015, only going up.
Yeah,
up.
How did it start out for you?
I had one of those magical evenings where the next morning you consider never drinking again.
Oh, okay. Well, because I value your friendship so deeply, I'm going to leave it at that. Ninja, how are you doing, bud?
I'm doing pretty good. I had a pretty...
Hold on. Other than that, Danger, how is it?
Other than that, it's the huge.
All right, thanks, bud. Ninja, back to you.
Oh, it's pretty good. My New Year's was rather interesting. In the span of 30 minutes, I went from being threatened to being sued to being hit on by the same person. It was...
All right, you're going to have to fill us in. What happened there?
Okay, so I work for a hotel group. I am one of their engineers, keeping all the stuff working. Each of our divisions in the hotel, marketing, catering, housekeeping, we all made gingerbread houses. This woman, rather inebriated, ate some of our gingerbread house, spat it out, and then I informed her that we used some fake spray snow. And she threatened to sue us because her friends were laughing at her. I thought she was a little embarrassed. And then a little bit later, her friend, it was very grade schoolish, but her friend asked me if I would sing her to sleep, because apparently her friend really likes my voice. I appreciate that, but my voice is made for radio, not for music. And then I was asked if I would be willing to give her mouth to mouth if the fake snow made her foam at the mouth. All in all, it was just pretty amusing.
All right, thanks a lot. And Natrix, how you doing tonight, pal?
Buongiorno, signore.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. All right, so Ninja, what are we going to be talking about tonight?
All right, so we'll be touching back on some old topics in our continuing coverage. We got a UFO discovery breakthrough, some medical discoveries to break through with our Mantis shrimp, some more touchback on the paranormal and the black-eyed children. We'll be discussing Obama authorizing an economic embargo, U.S. and Cuba restoring relationships, and then we'll be touching a little bit on phantom time, the Mars rover detecting organic compounds, and the scientific breakthrough of the year. All this tonight with a little bit of dangerous philosophy and 5 minutes with Just-Levi.
Sweet. Thank you, Ninja. So to start things off here on the show, I think we're going to first take a look at this YouTube video. The title is Breaking, ! 3 times, UFO alien disclosure.
Although as Minister of National Defense, I had sighting reports of UFOs. I was too busy to be concerned about them at the time because I was trying to unify the Army, Navy, and Air Force into a single Canadian Defence Force. And that itself was a kind of battle to the finish. So this was not high on my agenda. But about 10 years ago, I started getting interested due to a young man from Ottawa sending me material on the subject. I told him I was too busy to read it, but he had confidence that someday I would. And it took me a while to get around to reading it, but I took it for my summer reading in 2005 and was really impressed with what was contained in it. And what I thought to myself is there are huge issues here, huge issues. And the American people and the people of the world have a right to know what's going on because they're part of it. It's not just an isolated thing. I accept the invitation of Victor Vigiani, who's over here somewhere, and his cohort, Mike Bird, to speak to a symposium at the University of Toronto. And I said, UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying overhead. That gave me the dubious distinction of being the first person of cabinet rank in the G8 group of countries to say so unequivocally.
Now, what is primarily the focus that I took away from this video. It is a former Canadian Minister of Defense making these claims that UFOs are real and that we are being visited by several different alien races. Now, lots of people say that. Lots of people make that claim. But a lot of them aren't the former Canadian Minister of Defense.
Yeah, that's definitely the major point, that it lends some credence that he's a person who is in a position of authority with access to information that most people don't. And of course, now he's coming out with his version of the story. So
now, granted, I will concede that it could be total bullshit, and he could just be a whack job. But I would say typically you don't go from being somebody honorable with a good reputation to just spouting something you know is a lie. So either he really knows that UFOs exist, or he just genuinely believes it and he doesn't really know it. I don't think he's saying these things, knowing he's lying, or
he believes what he's saying.
Right.
Yeah, he actually, to go more on his credibility in the video, he wasn't just the former Canadian Minister of Defense. He had several seats on various committees, and I think he was a UN committee member on one of their joint task forces. So it wasn't just the Canadian government that trusted him with power. It was several other governments also had some, faith in this guy and to do his job right.
Right.
Yeah, and because he was so involved with all these different things, he did have a reputation on the line that, he wouldn't be making these claims if he didn't, as you said, Dizzle, believe in them himself. Whether he knows them to be true or not, he at least believes them to be true. But the one counterpoint to that I do feel is important to bring up is that just because this person is in a position of authority doesn't mean that it's necessarily true. It is kind of an argument in favor of authority, and so it helps give credibility to it, but it doesn't prove in its entirety anything necessarily.
Yeah, that's actually the argument by authority. So and just to go on the conspiracy theory side, when the government tells us a lie in order to get us to be compliant, and they're like, but we're the government, why would we lie to you? That's the same thing, but, we could technically be using that argument. Hey, this guy, why would he lie to us? So yeah, you're totally correct there, Wally. So, you got to take everything with a grain of salt, but typically this side of the argument doesn't get a more credible person to step out like this, so it's just more exciting for the UFO side.
I demand an explanation.
No, you don't get one.
Yeah, I thought it was cool that somebody of notoriety in the position of power he was in is stepping to the forefront of this topic and saying something about it.
It seems like a video like this and this person coming out and saying these things is a step in the direction that the UFO movement or community wants to be going towards.
Right. All right, moving along here, we're going to be looking at some psychic predictions that should have been.
You'd think that any psychic worth their salt would have been able to predict the rise of ISIS, the Ebola epidemic, the Ukraine crisis with Russia and the annexation of Crimea, Malaysia Flight 17, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 disappearance, a massive drop in the price of oil, Germany winning the FIFA World Cup, the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, and the notable deaths of celebrities such as Philip Seymour Hoffman, Maya Angelou, and Robin Williams.
All right, so basically what we're talking about here, we are at www.relativelyinteresting.com, and we'll have that link for you in the description below. But these are huge events that happened this year that were not predicted by any psychic. And that's essentially what drew me to this article. Below, if you want to continue reading, there's some
things that they did predict that didn't actually happen.
Yeah, there's some predictions that did not occur. But I think this stuff, to me, it hurts the theory behind psychics more, because when you're talking about a prediction that didn't occur, well, for all I know, knowing having the knowledge of that, that prediction being made, having that knowledge,
or even the warning of it,
right, changed the event from happening. You know what I mean?
So if a psychic predicts a disaster, the very prediction itself could serve as a warning that ends up having a ripple effect in causality that prevents it from ever happening, therefore causing their prediction to be false, even though by some means it perhaps could have been true.
But then, see, we're talking about time and the psychic warnings are passing through time, and now you're dealing with paradoxes. So because I was warned of this event that was going to happen to me, I have that foreknowledge. Is something I'm going to do able to change that? Is that why these predictions didn't happen?
That sounds like the debate of free will versus determinism, B-Dizzle.
I don't know.
My whole point is the only reason why we can even really have that particular question is because our modern critiques of psychics is, hey, we don't accept any ambiguity from them. We want details and specificity from them. I just made that word up.
No, I think that's a word. That's a word. You're
cool.
good. You're good.
We want them to specify details. But in fact, the old great prophets of ancient days were just as vague as fuck. Like all of Nostradamus' prophecies, ooh, a dark day, fire will rain from, and now you can be like modern poetically interpret that into missiles or napalm or, whatever, thing lines up. That's why we can still take, here's the fire, biblical prophecies and line them up, to every decade you got some biblical nut lining up because they were all super, super vague. We don't accept that in modern psychics. We want specifics and that we can test to see if you're right or wrong.
If you look at YouTube, you can find 1,000,001 different videos, even before 2012 and all that Mayan stuff of this is the year, somebody makes a video, this is the year that it's all the end of the world. And, I'm sure there's already 1,000,001 videos up on YouTube now of how 2015 is going to be the year that the world ends. We were not endowed with the gift to see through time.
Yeah, we just don't get to know.
The scientific community, it seems like their intention or goal is to be able to predict what is going to happen.
Well, and that's quantum physics. That's what quantum physics is. So if the better understanding we have of that, the better understanding the better ability we will have to predict everything. Honestly,
and I'm not even saying that we won't someday technologically advance to the point where we will have some sort of perception or even control over the fourth dimension or anything like that. But currently right now, we're like monkeys in the dark, man.
See, I'm a total proponent of telepathy. I think I don't see any reason why something like that doesn't really exist. And I've had my own experiences with things like that, but I do not believe in psychic visions from the future or the past for the simple fact that everything we do every second changes that. So we're always having a direct effect on the future. So you can't see something in the future because it's constantly shifting. So knowledge of the future would change that knowledge. Thereby you've created a paradox.
Or we could just go into straight comic book physics and every choice you are presented with in fact splits into multiple dimensions and thus we have multiverses.
That's a possibility too. I'm not going to discount anything.
That we can go into like Earth 616 and meet the Hulk.
Well, in some philosophy contexts, there's things that are known as possible worlds, and it's like if you were to consider all of the possible worlds, would this be a possible world and would this be one? And so you can like speculate any number of things based on possible worlds.
Well, if we want to get really deep into what I personally believe, I think the universe is probably infinite.
But that's so crazy to think about, because if that is really the case, then there's some universe out there or exact setting where we are right now where everything is the same, but we're all holding carrots or something like that.
Yeah.
or even better, and just to think about it this way, that means out there's at least 50 or 60 universes with like a prick version of you, and you can be like, man, fuck myself. And like totally mean it.
Yeah, but you got to take into consideration what infinity is. Yeah,
dude, don't try to make me like think in abstracts.
Right.
It just seems the argument that you seem to be getting at is that like in order for infinity to truly exist, all of these possible worlds must first exist, and only then will all possibilities of all things to equal infinite be real. Right? Or is that not it?
I'm just saying that within infinity, there is everything.
Yeah.
You can't escape it.
So before you can like confirm, yes, infinity is real, you must confirm that all possible worlds exist.
Well, isn't infinity, I mean, we can say it's an abstract because there is no way to measure infinity, so we could technically never prove infinity because that means we would have to be able to measure it. So infinity is an abstract concept created by us so that we can put the idea of never ending into a word. So, I mean, infinity may or may not even exist.
It seems like infinity just really means beyond our comprehension.
Yeah, that's another good, and infinite can encompass that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because our understanding is finite, and we have a very good deal of understanding.
Well,
about
I've gotten into discussions with friends about this, and this is my take on infinity. You can understand the concept of infinity, what it is, the concept of it, but you can never truly understand what infinity really is because we are thinking with a finite mind. Does that make sense?
Actually, I really like the example that you used that one time of like, so you have some infinity. You have infinity of something. Take some away. What's left? Well, then it wasn't infinity, because if you can take some of it away and it's not infinity anymore, then you never had infinity.
Right.
Can I get infinity chicken wings?
I would love infinity chicken wings.
I'm hungry for infinity chicken wings.
Yeah, you could say that.
All right, so we're gonna move the show along here. Next up, we're gonna be looking at the amazing Mantis shrimp.
The most badass shrimp on the planet.
This thing is so cool. It can punch. I think we have some Levi. I think we might have some Levi talking about some Mantis shrimp.
Enthusiastically talking about their like sonic punch that breaks the light. You know about this, Rick, right?
Yeah, their punch is set off with such force that it compresses the water in front of the fist, heats it up to beyond boiling, and it actually creates a spark of plasma that's hotter than the surface of the sun. And this is a shrimp.
Yeah, we're at www.sciencealert.com.
Scientists from the University of Queensland in Australia have discovered that the mantis shrimp have an incredibly useful ability. The marine creatures are able to see a variety of cancers inside our bodies, and they've now replicated that ability in a camera that could eventually be put into a smartphone.
Dude, isn't this mantis shrimp the exact same thing that kills its prey by snapping its hands so fast and boxing something that it creates negative pressure inside of water, which sparks light, which is very bizarre, but it also makes a concussionary blast, stunning whatever it is about to eat, so it can see cancer and punch light? Why don't they just pull one of those things inside of me and let it box my cancer away? Oh, I love this thing. I've been watching a lot of National Geographic, and it's mainly not like a whole bunch of native ladies dancing around or whatever, and their own indigenous. Well, you gotta have your filler parts of National Geographic, but a lot of it's underwater stuff, and underwater is very interesting to me because we're finding shit every single day. And the mantis shrimp, now it can see cancer and it can punch fucking things into sun spotted lights. I want this shrimp. I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna try to do it. I'm gonna make some sort of deal, trade off 50 Majorcan money units, and I'm gonna get a shrimp.
So these, again, we are learning from nature how to better our own lives.
Yeah, learning from nature. I mean, airplanes. We saw birds and got jealous.
For sure. For how long was humanity jealous, though?
Oh, for 20,000 years,
crazy.
At least.
Let's do the math on that.
Probably much longer, but...
Shut up. Don't quote factual numbers at me.
Well,
Well, let's talk about how the mantis shrimp is able to do this. They have what are known as unique compound eyes. This type of eye is superbly tuned to detect polarized light, a type of light that reflects differently off of different types of tissue, including cancerous or healthy tissue. So this is kind of on a different spectrum than what we are able to see with our naked eye. These shrimps are just able to naturally see them. And the other point that I wanted to make is what the article is getting at is one of the implications of this technology is that it's going to be attached to smartphones and things like that. So it's not even going into a doctor's office. It's you are at home scanning yourself for cancerous tissues.
So instead of going to the doctor, you can be like, oh, this mole looks weird, and you just take a picture with your smartphone, and it can tell you if it's cancerous.
Even that picture could then be your appointment. Send that picture off to your doc and be like, yo, doc, this looks funny. Yeah, come in, let me check that out.
Right.
And they 3D print you chemotherapy.
No, I really hope by that point we have moved beyond chemotherapy.
Yeah, for sure. Let's not get into that whole mess, though.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is just an awesome article to get into if you want to see how awesome nature is and how nature will truly be our savior in all facets of life, really.
If I may channel Levi a little bit here, oh man, I really hope when they do get this detection thing going, it'll be like all steampunk. I hope they like wire a mantis shrimp into like a stick, and when you walk into the office, they like point it at you and the shrimp like freaks out if you got cancer.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, but that'd be bad because then he might punch you with his super punch.
I don't see a drawback in this.
Maybe that's how they get rid of the skin cancer.
Yeah, they just fucking punch the cancer out of
the
you.
mantis punches you with the hotter than sun punch.
It just burns the cancers out.
They got to put a little speaker on top of the mantis shrimp. Every time it punches, it makes a little light ball that it goes. Hadouken! Hadouken! All right, so moving along here, we're going to touch back on the black-eyed kids phenomenon. I wanted to touch back on what over the season, I've been thinking a lot about this. This was a pretty popular topic when we covered it.
Hot topic.
And I wanted to give my impression on the overall nature of this phenomenon.
Oh yeah? What's your impression?
I think it's a urban legend that spiraled out of control.
Yep, some kids on drugs with contact lenses going crazy.
I'm not totally certain where it started or, why it persists so much, but I really don't think it's anything supernatural going on here.
Most of the listeners who might be familiar with the internet might be familiar with the meme, "You made this? I made this." Someone hears a good story, then they want to tell the story, and then they put themselves in the story, and then it spreads. I mean, this is just a meme.
That's what it feels like. That's the impression I get from it. I wouldn't argue with a person if somebody approached me and had a genuine story and they felt it was a real event that happened to them, and they claimed to have met some black-eyed children, and it was a real thing to them. I wouldn't look them in the eye and be like, you're wrong. It wasn't anything. But I just haven't read anything that really compelled me enough to really sink any credibility into this phenomenon.
Yeah, I mean, there's some connections that can be drawn between the stories, some parallels, like say, for instance, in the UFO lore, there's the gray aliens that are often attributed to having black eyes, somewhat similar to this, or they can be described in having it that way. So there's kind of an alien tie-in there. And then a lot of these stories with the black-eyed kids have to do with being invited into homes, which just sounds like a crazy vampire-related thing involving that myth.
Now, having said that, I believe it's urban legend that has spiraled out of control. I could totally see this having been spawned from an actual event that happened to one person. Like, one person actually did have a paranormal event with some creepy looking kids. They were telling their friend at the bar about it, and it spiraled out of control from there. That could be a possibility.
It was like the story was so good they had to tell it again with their name.
What Ninja said. The meme just spiraled out of control. Now, having said all of that, it could be a real phenomenon because there are a lot of stories out there.
And I don't know if we've got like the clip of this, but just to throw back a little bit of what Levi said, if one of these kids showed up on my door and black soulless eyes were looking back at me, I can't say my first reaction wouldn't be to punch him or hit him with a baseball bat. If it was a bunch of kids pranking people, like I imagine some kids would have gotten hurt by now.
Yeah, and the fact that people really just like a good scary story.
But that is an interesting point. Humanity, our society, we do seem to crave and seek out little stories of fear.
Yeah,
excitement.
we like scary stories. It's something about us that is interesting in itself. All right, from there, we're going to turn the corner once again for a little dangerous philosophy. Danger, what do you got for us?
Right on. Tonight, we are turning our sights to an age-old debate, free will versus determinism. Now, the concept of free will is so intuitive to us that it is hard to think about the idea that we may not have free will because we're so conscious of our decisions as we make them. So to say that you do not have free will, it's a tough pill to swallow. So I'm going to have three different things kind of lined up here today where I'm going to, first of all, kind of present the argument in favor of determinism and how the scientific community is kind of a part of that. Then we're going to talk about the moral implications of determinism and what that means. And lastly, we'll talk about an omniscient God and the concept of free will and whether or not those ideas are compatible. So as I kind of mentioned earlier in the show, it's the goal of science, in some ways, I would argue, to predict the outcomes of things. If you look at physics, they want to be able to say how energy or forces are going to be applied to each other in a predictable way so that they can do things like launch satellites into orbit and other things like that.
Absolutely.
It is the function of the science of chemistry to predict the outcome of mixing certain things together and from a biochemical perspective.
Fuck my ass. What else?
That's right. And also in the psychological department and sociology, we're predicting outcomes there of how the mind works and how people function in groups and things like that. So with all of this in mind, how does that tie into free will versus determinism? Well, you could say that we have these hereditary traits that are inherited through evolution and that we are the way we are somewhat because of our genetics. They play a large role in that. Our genetics are not something that we choose or have control of. Okay, so that's like against free will. You didn't choose to be born as who you are. You have no control of that, and yet your genetic factors play a big role in who you are. The second part is that all the actions that we do are merely reactions to stimuli. Our environment is stimulating us with all these various things, both inanimate and animate objects that we perceive and are reacting to based off of all these different processes that, while they are complicated, are perhaps scientifically explainable. And if they can be predicted, is it possible that you could have picked otherwise? So just in the same way that a hungry animal doesn't seem to have any choice to attack and kill its prey, neither do we have a choice in ordering fast food one night or something like that. So yeah, it's two things. It's the stimuli, we're just reacting to it. We don't have that control over it, and the heredity that we don't have control over either. So that's kind of an argument in favor of determinism, but at the same time, we're so locked in to like experiencing the moment and feeling like we're choosing and all of these different things that some people have said that we're kind of like an observer that's like locked within the golem we're looking out and we're experiencing and we're observing everything, and we feel like we're a part of it, but it's actually just reaction.
So just because we're aware of all the stimuli our bodies are doing and we're aware of the reactions we're giving from it, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're really in control of it. We're just kind of witnessing it all happening and experiencing it.
Yeah, and that's weird to think about because
that undermines my sense of self.
Yeah, it's like if you think about all the building blocks.
You're depressing to talk to.
Not sometimes I am, yeah, no doubt. So if you think about everything in the universe, like all the molecules that make it are like Legos, right? And they're built in these like elaborate and arranged ways in a very specific way. Everything that we're going through is just an expression of where the Legos have been laid out and how the energy and forces are interacting with each other. And while it seems right now that I'm choosing the very words that I'm saying, the reality is I could not have said them any differently, perhaps. Okay, so if you are to be like, oh, wow, Danger, you just convinced me that I don't have free will. All of a sudden, we lack justification for morality, it would seem. Because if I do something reprehensible to Rick the Ninja right now, like hit him really hard in the face and cause great pain to him, which I wouldn't do. He's yawning right now. I might hit him in the face because he's yawning. Are you yawning?
No, I'm standing here, mouth agape.
Oh,
at the horror.
Of me hitting you. But if determinism is true, then I couldn't have done anything otherwise than to hit you. I had to hit you. There's all the forces at work, man. There's nothing I could have picked other than to hit you.
I would like to argue with you in this point, but you've already depressed me to the point of not caring anymore. So I think I'd sit here and take the hit. I mean,
oh man,
what else could I do?
Exactly. And so furthermore, there's no action that anybody could do that could be either rewarded or blamed or anything because it all just like had to happen. So all of a sudden we've lost morality, which is weird, right? I mean, we seem to be able to judge actions as being innately good or bad, so that's messed up.
That's interesting because our concept that we've touched back on the abstract of good and evil in a previous Dangerous Philosophy, I believe, but that is entirely based on the concept of free will. If you don't have free will, You can't be evil. You can't be good because we've made that up.
I think fundamentally, this is my opinion on the whole deal. I'm part of the universe. I'm part of the function of the universe, and I'm fulfilling that function. I'm not saying that it was a preordained thing, but just like a white blood cell hunts down and destroys things that are not supposed to be there, or just like a red blood cell transports oxygen through your body, I am fulfilling my function in the universe, whatever it is. I don't necessarily think it is necessarily preordained, like every little detail. Maybe it is, but I think there is a function for everything, and you serve that function. I'm not going to fall back and say it's I don't believe it's the Judeo-Christian God that planned anything. I'm not taking the stance on a creationist. I'm not saying any of that.
That's still a kind of like a touchy stance to say. So people that have, say, been born into a shitty situation, war-torn countries, third world countries and stuff, are they just fulfilling their purpose?
As much as it sucks, like Danger said before, it's a bitter pill to swallow. Yeah. Or maybe it's not a real function like we would typically say it is. And it hurts to think about that these people are suffering, because I'm not trying to belittle their suffering or the suffering of anyone. But when you look at the scope of the universe, what it is, the suffering of an individual person doesn't really matter, probably.
Well, that's where I would disagree, because this is where, now I
maybe I should have said maybe.
I think I've talked about this, where I'm in the belief that good and evil are what we make of it. They only have definitions because we have defined them. And if we want collectively as a society to be good, if like we have chosen to be noble in any variety of the definitions that we could apply to that, we can choose to say the suffering of everyone matters. And that can be the definition. And the fact that we give it a definition and we work toward that can be the meaning and the truth behind it, even if it had none before we gave it.
I'm a man. I'm sensitive. I need to feel loved. I need to be desired.
And that, I seriously, I do.
Well, if I am just a product of the universe and functioning and fulfilling my function, then every pain I've had, every joy I've had, has been the universe's pain and joy. Every pain and joy we're all part of the universe. It's all the universes, really. So us as individuals, I'm not trying to belittle my own life or your life or anyone's lives. I still think it all matters. You know, I had a theory a long time ago that really on a fundamental level, we are all the universe, experiencing life through different circumstances, different perspectives. So each one of us right now is the consciousness of the universe right now, experiencing life as Danger or the Ninja or Dizzle. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not. That's just a theory. So if that is the case, then is there right? Is there wrong? These are all abstracts that, it's really hard to weigh in on, honestly. So I think fundamentally, I know I said I think a lot of things. I think this and I think that. I really don't know what I think. I don't have any views that are really locked in place and say that's what I believe. I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of theories.
You free spirit, you.
I think we want to be free spirits and we want to maintain that idea, but in the face of the evidence, as we continue to understand things, there's such an inner conflict in my mind.
Dude, you need to take all those feelings and lay them to a pop track and sell it to like 13, 14-year-old girls. You will make so much money.
You son of a bitch.
Okay, so just to wrap this all up then, the last point that is sometimes made in the free will versus determinism debate as it relates to an omniscient God is that if there is a God who knows all things, that God would know everything that you are going to do, and therefore that seems to imply that you couldn't do anything other than what that God would already have known you to do. It kind of eliminates the choice in a sense. Do you guys get that? Did I explain that all right? If God knows everything you do before you do it, you can't do anything other than what you are going to, what he is, or what God would know you to do.
Well, interesting now, if you say omniscient, however we want to pronounce it.
I say it omniscience.
Thank you, Wally. So, however you want to say it, if the God created everything. If you go like the Catholic way, there's a divine plan, and then he knows everything that's going to happen. Now, that means he's made those decisions for you. Now, a God that knows everything that will happen, that doesn't necessarily mean he's made the decisions for you. It could be like, imagine like the most awesome security booth in the biggest mall in the universe. God could just be sitting at the seat and watching every monitor simultaneously. Not necessarily affecting the decisions, just being aware of all the stuff. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's made the decisions for you. He's simply aware of all the decisions you will make as you're making them and as you will make them.
I see what he's saying there.
I mean, if you go to the science part of the determinism where we say, oh, well, we don't really have free will because you know that this is going to happen in this order because the dominoes are going to fall in this order.
Yeah.
That could just be like on the God side of it. God just happens to know the way everything's going to go. He didn't necessarily say that he's making those decisions for you. He's just kind of watching you make them.
Well, but hold on. If God knows how the decisions are going to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that you could have done otherwise than what God knows? Yes or no? Can you do otherwise? If God knows exactly what you're going to do, can you do something different than what God knows you're going to do? Yes or no?
The way you're phrasing it is a trick question. That's the paradox. If you're going to say, like, you could phrase it more like, if God is aware of the decision that you're going to make, when you are faced with the decision, does he make the decision for you? No, he's simply aware of what choice you're going to make.
Well, I see what you're saying, that he can be aware of it and not making the decision. It just still loses the moral accountability, it seems like, because you...
But morals, again, are an abstract thing, just like everything else we're talking about.
Abstracts.
Yeah.
Brought to you by City Water.
Yep. Join us in the second half when we talk about more abstract stuff.
And with that, I think
felt so awkward.
It did.
Should I put my pants back on?
Please.
I have problems.
All right, so with that, I think we're going to take a quick break. We'll see you in a couple minutes here on Red Herring Radio.
I'm Noah Turquoise Jackson, here today with our special guest, Dr. Paul Engelbretson, to talk to you about city water. Now, Doctor, you jumped headlong into the world of city water. Tell us a little bit about what that's been like for you.
Well, you see, first of all, I think you need to ask me about how I got interested in city water.
Well, Doc, what's your story?
We finally said we can't take it anymore.
Can't take it anymore?
Oh, yeah, with the well water. So then we called up the guy and we said, well, we got to have city water. Everything's falling apart with the rust. The bowls are all covered with rust, and the problems with the softener were due to rust. So anyway, he came out, but we hooked up to city water. Well, the pressure was so great that the rust impeded toilet bowls. Two of them blew out and started leaking. So now we are constantly running city water through our toilets.
City water through the toilets? La-dee-da! I never would have thought of that.
Oh, yeah. And so then we had to call the plumber guy, and he came out and he fixed the toilets. So now we got city water, and it's not rusty, which is probably a good thing. So finally, the iron filter went out, and the softener had two major problems. Now, we still have to use the softener for city water, but we don't need the iron filter anymore. So anyway, we had 2 episodes with the softener because of the rust, because the iron filter wasn't working anymore. So, well, what happened was that the city decided they needed more population to attract businesses, so they annexed our property and we became part of the city of Alexandria. And they told us, this was in 2012, and they told us in 2014 that they would make city water available through the pipes at the mere cost of $6,500.
$6,500? What a convenient and competitive price.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real bargain. And then, of course, they said, if you really want city water, you need to get a digger and have a pipe run to your house to set you up for city water. So we, of course, contacted a nice fellow. A nice fellow contacted us. We didn't get bids. And for a mere $4,000, they made us city water ready. So anyway, one of the things I like a lot about city water, I can look into the toilet bowl and I don't see rust.
Oh, of course. That's the meteorite microparticles. They blast away the rust. So what happened next, Doctor?
Well, the next step was even more exciting. You see, we have our own pump in the house. So the rules of the game are this. If your pump quits, you can't put in a new pump. You got to go to city water. And the $4,000 we spent during the procedure, they drained the, what do you call that? The water...
Table?
Yeah, they drained the water table. If we didn't do the $4,000 thing from their pipes to our house, and we had to do it later, we'd have had to pay for draining the water table again, plus the digging. So we hired the digger. So now we're into it for $10,500. But we haven't started receiving our monthly bill yet.
Oh, you'll be getting a bill along with a free bonus barrel of City Water Classic. So new and fully classic.
Now, one of the things I really have to say is that with the city water, which of course tastes like chlorine, but we have a Brita, and that takes the chlorine right out, so we can drink the water and make coffee with Brita water.
City Water is not affiliated with Brita water filters. Now, Doctor, being a member of the medical community, would you be willing to say that maybe 4 out of 5 doctors would probably recommend city water? Maybe.
I'd go with 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5? Not bad. Well, thanks for your time tonight, Doctor. We really appreciate it. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the listeners that you love about city water?
Well, I like the fact that I got it for $11,000. All I can say is there's no turning back. We're sticking with city water.
You heard it here from a doctor, folks. Once you've had city water, there's no turning back. I'm Noah Turquoise Jackson telling you to buy some city water today.
Warning. The opinions shared on this show are those of free-thinking individuals who, without payment or coercion, chose to be here and share those opinions with the world. This podcast may contain language, opinions, and ideas some people may find offensive and or controversial. Listener discretion is advised.
Broadcasting from the land of 10,000 lakes. This is the Red Herring Radio Splendiferous Post-Holiday New Year Spectacular Solar Orbit Cycle Anniversary Super Amazingly Long Post-Production Razmantagical Fun Time Finale Extravaganza.
Yay!
On this half of the show, we'll be talking about Phantom Time, Crimea, Cuba, the scientific breakthrough of the year, Mars rover, and 5 Minutes with Just-Levi.
Oh, you must be very proud of yourself.
You know what, Nate? You know, I'm sick of you and your little high horse. You're sitting there quipping at us from your fucking message board.
All right, thanks. Welcome back to the show.
Who is your daddy, and what does he do?
You know what? You know goddamn well who my daddy is.
No, it is not true.
Welcome back to the show, everybody.
Fucking son of a bitch.
To start things off here again, we are going to be talking about this phantom time hypothesis. Danger, What do we got here, man?
This is a historical conspiracy theory advanced by German historian and publisher Herbert Illich, born 1947. It proposes that the historical events between AD 1614 and 9/11 in the early Middle Ages of... It proposes that the historical events between AD 614 and 9/11 in the early Middle Ages of Europe and neighboring regions are either wrongly dated or did not occur at all, and that there has been a systematic effort to cover up that fact.
All right, so we're taking that from Wikipedia here for a phantom time hypothesis. So essentially what they're saying here is that the Holy Roman Emperor Otto II, Pope Sylvester II, and possibly the Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII fabricated a whole conspiracy here to change the time they were living in to be around AD 1000. They wanted that to, be during their reign, so, it would line up with certain events and certain things like that.
And they also had the ability then, with a chunk of time, to fabricate certain bits of history to solidify certain bits. Among this article, it says that they invented the figure of Charlemagne to solidify certain historical positions.
Right. So if this is true, then we would be living in around the year 1700, if we're going by our current calendar. But that takes me back to what we were just talking about over several topics on the last half of the show. These things we talk about, they're all just ideas. And just like does it matter if we are living in the year 1700?
Yeah, the concept of the date that we actually ascribe to a certain day, that's just an abstract marker. It's like a name for that date that we've applied to it for our own reference purposes. It doesn't actually change the date it is.
There are some things in this world that go way beyond human understanding. Things that cannot be explained. Things that most people don't want to know about.
I think fundamentally, it doesn't really matter. I think it's interesting that...
The only thing that really matters is the false history that might have been created and presented as truth.
Right.
And furthermore, what other false histories could exist? Like, if this happened... Truly, couldn't there be other things where maybe we're further ahead in time than we ought to be, and it's actually this year?
Absolutely.
There's a very real passing of the seasons that does occur, as far as, the one years, the one trip around the sun, and that is a real thing that we're trying to measure with the years. So there could be a real year that does exist. Like, the Earth could be a certain number of years old.
Yeah, and another great point is human beings don't often come up with all the great ideas. Oftentimes we look to the past. Did they decide to do this on a grander scale because it had worked on a smaller scale in the past? And has it been repeated if it was true? So, there could be all kinds of
right. So the entirety
dicks messing with the calendars.
Right. So the entirety of human history could be a fabrication for all we know, really.
Large portions of it, anyway. New conspiracy theory. We are, in fact, in a large, ant farm type display. There's been only, 10 generations of humans. Our entire history is fabricated by, aliens who came down and just, left us, bits and pieces. We're like, yeah, this has totally happened. And then we're like, yeah, it must have. We got all this evidence.
It's another hypothetical scenario like the brain in the vat or the Matrix, in terms of we have these assumptions about our knowledge and our claims to that knowledge that could, through all these different scenarios, turn out to be false.
All right. So, yeah, I recommend just checking out this theory a little more on your own. We'll have the link for the Wikipedia page below if you want to just check this out a little bit.
That would be so cool.
All right. Up next, we're turning to RT.com.
Obama authorizes economic embargo.
That was horrible.
This is just another update on the relations between the United States federal government and Russia. The latest is that Obama has issued an executive order that prohibits the export of goods, technology, or services to Crimea, and prohibits the import of goods, technology, or services from Crimea, as well as new investments in Crimea, according to the statement. The executive order also authorizes the Secretary of the Treasury to impose sanctions on individuals and entities operating in Crimea. So the big story here pretty much, obviously, as you heard from all that, nothing is going in or out on a international level from Crimea, which means that Russia can't support them. And yeah.
Well, we've been covering this whole deal since we started the show.
Yeah, what is also interesting, very similar to the Cold War, we're in this standoff with Russia, and rather than go into any kind of direct confrontation, we have started laying on the diplomatic crap.
Oh, I've been seeing a lot of stuff in, the Western mainstream media against Putin. So there is that's the Cold War-esque.
The fact that the WWE has got a Russian wrestler is just like every time he comes out, they put Putin's name and face behind like this other wrestler. Nothing to do with it, but
and everybody boos.
Everybody boos.
Right.
You're out of here, lady.
I just want our species to
just get along. Can't they just get along, right?
We need to grow up. Seriously, we're all here on this freaking planet together. We're not going anywhere. We don't got anywhere to go.
40,000 years and we're still into tribalism.
Yes, and it's so ridiculous. I'm not pro one world government. I'm not pro that at all. I'm into self-governance. People need to take some responsibility in this world and stop blaming someone else. Stop looking to someone else to take care of you. Stop. I mean, we can take care of each other. We can live in a world where we take care of ourselves and take care of each other in a mature, responsible way. We don't need to fight over dumb bullshit. This world is not controlled by the individuals. We are definitely controlled by someone.
Well, I think the masses submit to control by powerful individuals, and that the masses can take that power back through, individual. It's kind of interesting talking about that stuff from the free will aspect earlier tonight of just like, can we really choose to like live this life as you're speaking of, I don't know, of just like not warring with each other or not being greedy, because this is greed over power and resources and stuff.
Well, it's just all destruction. And, I get it that there's lots of money to be made in war, and that's why it's probably never going to really disappear.
But, that's an interesting thing. Money itself and the concept of money and value is also kind of an abstract value. So really, to get that like perfect world where we're talking about self-governance, we kind of need to move ourselves beyond the concept of things having monetary value.
And capitalism. I think you could make a case that capitalism is like holding back evolution.
All I need is a wad of cash with a head wrapped around it.
Well, I think we've talked about this before, and I don't know if we came to the conclusion that this is the case, but it's really all about control. It's really about power, because that's what money really is. It's
like faith in a system and a social agreement.
Paper money is just a symbol of power. It's a way by which to transfer energy, a physical way by which to transfer energy. That's what it is. And the more of it you have, the more power you have. Literally, because that's what money is. You work. You put in physical time into a job and you receive money. You have transferred that physical work into a physical means by which to trade that energy.
Yeah, the concept of money came to the idea of like, I could go hunt a chicken and you could go fish, and I could trade you some of the chicken that I hunt and you could give me some of the fish that you fished, and then yada yada. So that we basically said, well, it takes this much effort to do something compared to this much effort to do that. It just gave us a basis of exchange. But the system of money that we have now has moved beyond that, and this is what you can do, because money is not just a good and service anymore. Money is speech, it's authority, it's access.
Well, what I don't like about the current state of like money and things like that is there's this whole aspect of society where we are putting all of this energy and effort into trading and money and banking and like money making you money. And you may have heard before that it is expensive to be poor. And that is because, if you don't have money to pay for this, then you're just going to get your ass kicked in 6 different ways.
Right. Well, I don't think money is inherently evil. Like people say money is the root of all evil or whatever, but I don't agree with that. Money is not inherently evil because, like we just said, it's just a tool by which to make something
easier. It made trade easier.
Exactly.
But the system that has grown up around money has become a system that people can use for evil.
Our fractional reserve banking system is not good. That's
a whole show by itself.
That we could literally make a whole show about fractional reserve banking
and the debt that it creates and how it's all just this big monster that's totally out of control. That was the point that I was getting at, is that like if Wall Street didn't exist and all of that energy and effort could be put into bettering humanity through robotic technology, if everybody who was working on Wall Street and involved with finances started working on building robots, wouldn't that be a badass future?
We'd have the flying car. Yeah. I know that.
If everybody that's listening to this show right now, just take a second to think about this.
All 20 subscribers, we love you guys. Shout out to the subs. What up?
Yeah, so fractional reserve banking, blah, blah, blah.
Thanks for subscribing.
Yeah.
Click like. Thanks.
Yeah. So moving along here.
Yep. Moving along.
We go to Reuters.com. U.S.-Cuba restore ties after 50 years.
That's right. The story here is that the United States and Cuba agreed on Wednesday to restore diplomatic ties Washington severed more than 50 years ago. President Barack Obama called for an end to the long economic embargo against its Cold War enemy as well. So what we see here is that pretty much they've exchanged some spies back and forth. They're working on becoming friends again, but there's still no exchange of goods and services back and forth. But there is possibility for some tourism and some visiting and that kind of thing to open up a little bit more here.
Well, this is cool, but I think it's obviously falls into that what me and Ninja were talking about just a couple minutes ago about the new Cold War that's kind of seems to be popping up.
So this is just another move in that chess game?
Yeah. I mean, we lost them in the first Cold War. I think we're going to try to get them back in the second one.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because that was one of the big fears, is that Russia had a strong hold right here in our backyard.
The Cuban Missile Crisis.
Well, and it's in the Atlantic as well. So, like, Russia is already our Pacific neighbors. And so, right, am I a total idiot?
I mean, Japan is right there, but kind of between. But they are right there next to Alaska.
But technically, the island of Cuba is in the Gulf of Mexico, but I do believe it still qualifies as being in the Atlantic.
On the Atlantic side there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, I don't know how big of a deal or how much it is a concern of the United States for it to be there, but like just have to only worry about Russia on the one side.
The big deal about the Cuban Missile Crisis is that it's close enough that by the time they launched missiles, it might have been too close to either have launched missiles of our own or to launch something to intercept their missiles. And our nuclear doctrine has always been the MAD doctrine, mutually assured destruction. Our government has always stated that if you launch missiles and we feel that we will be destroyed by them, we will do a full retaliatory response and take you to hell with us. That's always been the United States nuclear policy.
And that's part of the reason there are so many nukes. And that's why some countries have nukes, is just to deter. So,
yeah, it's a dangerous policy, but it is partially effective.
Right. All right, so moving on here. We are at www.sciencemag.org. We are looking at the 2014 Science Breakthrough of the Year. And it's talking about the
drum roll. We gotta get a drum roll.
Oh yeah. What are we talking about here, Danger?
The scientific breakthrough of 2014 was the Rosetta probe shot its load all over the place.
Yeah. 2014 Science Breakthrough of the Year is landing on a comet. Rosetta, short-lived lander, Philae, grabbed national headlines, but the ongoing orbital mission of her mothership is the real news for science. It's continuing its orbit around Comet 67P, Churyumov-Gerasimenko.
Nailed it.
Is helping scientists to garner information on the primordial ingredients that help to jumpstart life on Earth. Rosetta's life at Comet 67P has just begun and heralds a new age of science.
Yeah, so this is just taking a minute to recognize how cool of an accomplishment it was that this lander.
Well, according to sciencemag.org, it's the #1 accomplishment. They have a video that goes over some other, runners up, if you will.
But to like put it in a little bit of perspective, I mean, if you imagine the vastness of space, which it's hard to really imagine how vast and tiny we all are, but imagine just the tiniest speck of dust falling through the sky, and we shot another speck of dust at it, and we put one speck of dust in orbit around another speck of dust and sent a smaller speck of dust from one speck to the other speck. It's just amazing that we were able to trigonometry.
Woo!
Yeah, and math and physics and dividing. It's all so cool.
And, they discovered a lot of cool things on that comet. That's where we got we featured it on the show, the sound the magnetic field was making.
Yep.
And they detected organic compounds on that comet as well, did they not?
Organic compounds, I don't know what that is. I was not sure. Tell me what organic compounds really are, B-Dizzle.
All right, so let's shoot over to wikipedia.org here. Organic compound is any member of a large class of gaseous, liquid, or solid chemical compounds whose molecules contain carbon.
So that's it. It has carbon.
Methane is one of the simplest organic compounds. And if you want to check out the Wikipedia for organic compounds, we'll have a link in the description below, or you can just go to Wikipedia and search for it yourself.
So why is this?
It's not too hard, but we try to make things simple for people.
I like to use Google.
Right? So that kind of segues to one of the last things here we're going to be talking about, and we are at news.nationalgeographic.com. Mars rover detects simple organic compounds.
NASA's Mars rover Curiosity has detected several simple carbon-based organic compounds on Mars, but it remains unclear whether they are formed via earthly contamination or whether they contain only elements indigenous to the planet.
I think the important thing to take away with that headline is that they found them and they got excited and they're covering their butts. They're like, wait. We got to make sure this isn't cross-contaminated, but we're so fucking excited. We got to tell somebody.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that's fair and that's safe, and that's the scientific way to really take it. At least they're conceding that it could be cross-contamination.
Yep.
This is pretty exciting, though, because, a lot of people think that Mars could have had life on it at one point. Could have, the entire planet could have been totally different than what it is today.
Colonized?
Well,
not necessarily.
I'm not going necessarily with... There's lots of theories about that, too, and we could get into that sometime.
Single-celled organisms.
But I'm just talking about simple,
Yeah, I've seen some things where they were talking like Mars at one point had a lot of shallow oceans and just oceans full of plankton, much like Earth.
Right. If you want to discuss whether or not if it's ever had complex life on it, maybe. There's conspiracy theories out there talk about there are jump rooms to Mars with military bases on Mars, and there's all sorts of speculation on what's really going on with Mars. The face on Mars, have you ever seen that? Kind of.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so
I've seen it from a couple other angles that make it look not like a face too.
Right. So, there's lots of stuff going on with Mars. It's very fascinating. This is more interesting to me. The detection of an organic compound is more interesting to me than the supposed face on Mars. That's cool.
That just seems like something you can chalk up to like coincidence, right. And
it's cool in its own regard, but detecting organic compounds, that suggests that we might find some kind of evidence for life. It directs us in that life might have been there.
If we find evidence for organic compounds on Mars, we could find organic compounds and thus the building blocks of life, and thus life could exist anywhere else in the universe where similar conditions could be met. Right. That's the most important bit of it right there, is if we can find it on another planet in our solar system, we can find it on another planet anywhere else in the galaxy, and we might not be alone.
Right.
See? It's fucking simple.
So 2014 had some cool stuff in it. Here's hoping 2015 has even more.
Yep. And any of you guys have any New Year's resolutions?
Keep kicking ass, taking names. What's up?
Anything from you, Ninja?
Yeah, I resolve to destroy Wally.
All right. And my New Year's resolution is to quit smoking, and I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to do it. And
good luck,
we are
B-Dizzle.
supporting you.
Yeah, that shit is hard. If there's anybody out there that has any kind of experience with that, I hope you feel me there.
Yeah, if you are listening and you have any advice for Dizzle, be sure to comment. He needs your support.
Yeah, that would really help me out a lot with the quitting. Support is a good thing from anyone. So
yeah, peer pressure, it works.
But before we wrap the show up here, we do have a little segment here we'd like to end the show with, and it is 5 minutes with
Just-Levi. Check it out.
Derp, derpity derp 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 derp.
Where the fuck's my spitting bag? This is bullshit.
It would taste horrible to any one of us who loves potatoes.
No, I used to eat raw potatoes all the time.
Well, it's weird as fuck. You guys are fucking weird, and this is stupid. Where's that beer? This is not worth it.
I love them.
Yep.
Oh, it's all in my fucking teeth. Welcome back. Here I am. Hello world. How are you? Everything is so great. What I have right here is a very nice little thing. So much this bane, this scourge, inside of my whole existence. This little underbaked good dwelling inside of the ground that everyone seems to find irresistible and all over the place that I don't even seem to understand. Why would you even want this in the first place? What I'm speaking of course, it's a very standard potato. I don't like potatoes. I really don't like them. Not one bit. And every single person that I've talked to, they all find me bizarre. Like, I'm the weird one. Like, I don't like potatoes. And that I find is very, very, very ridiculous. Because there's so many things in this world that you really could find ridiculous, other than just somebody who doesn't like the taste of potatoes. And then whenever I find somebody who doesn't understand the fact that I don't like potatoes, you know what the first thing they say to me is like, oh, you don't like potatoes, do you? Well, you know what you gotta do? You gotta try some of my potatoes. Like, they can incorporate some sort of grandiose thing that's gonna make the regular dirt flavored fucking potato taste any more than just regular dirt. You know, all you're gonna do, and if I really wanted a potato and I was gonna do that, I would just go outside and lick the goddamn ground, because the ground is where you're gonna find your potato. And you know what your potato is? Your potato is pretty much buried inside of the ground, which is makes it one of the most closest vegetables to Satan in all the 4 points of life. And if you're gonna eat something and everything, I mean, like, why would you even make it that much closer to the devil? Why don't you eat yourself like a nice apple? Oh no, biblical terms, if you were gonna say from a strange person, I'm excused from Levi's thoughts. So on this potato rant that I'm rolling on my way into, why would you do this? And one of the most magical things that I've really found, potatoes really don't offer you all that much, besides from your starch and what your protein intake, on what you're gonna get from all of it. Yeah, good for that. I'm happy. Potato, dirt flavored potato from the ground closest to Satan. You and your starchy ways will try to make me somewhere equivalent to at least half a pack of certs. I'll get the same amount of equivalent starches from half a pack of certs that I will from a fucking potato. And I'll look at this potato, and it's crazy because everyone is always like, oh, you don't like those potatoes. Oh, but I'm not gonna eat the potatoes because the potatoes are some type of evil, and every fuck mook on top of the earth, you know, those square ass rubes on me and telling me, oh, you're gonna love my potato, you're gonna be loved. I'm gonna decorate some part of the dirt with sour cream and chives and some sort of cheese topping that you're not gonna believe. You're not even gonna guess. I'm actually gonna put 15 different things in there. Then I'm gonna try to make you guess is cheese just to keep you guessing from the dirt I stacked it on top of. That's what you're gonna get. And it's bizarre. And in a world where tolerance is preached everywhere today, it seems like some man that could touch children all over the place riding a unicycle in a tutu could have more tolerance than me not wanting to have a fucking potato shoved down my goddamn throat. And it's like they put it on this little pedestal, and they set it on the pedestal, and they're looking from their little, I don't know, we'll call it big. It's Big Mount Olympus. And they're looking past this potato down on me. Like this potato is a little forefront, a fucking little. This arm is bitch.
All right, so that was that. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight, and I want to thank everybody for listening to the show this first season of ours. This has been an interesting kind of experiment. It's been a lot of fun.
A journey.
Yeah, it's been a lot of hard work, but it's been really rewarding. And I want to thank everybody here on the show that's helped me out with this. Danger, Ninja, and Natrix. I couldn't have done this without you guys. I want to thank Just-Levi as well. He couldn't be here with us tonight, but I know he will hear the show.
You are welcome, B-Dizzle. It has been my pleasure to be on the show.
Sweet. And we will be back in a couple months with season 2. We are definitely coming back to do this again. But we just want to take a little time off and come up with some cool ideas for season
entertainment.
2. Yeah.
You know I'm trying to put something really big together out here. You know what I'm talking about, huh? You know. If you're acting like this now, how can I depend on you?
So, yeah, thanks again. And leave us any comments that you might have. Like, subscribe, and share this. That would really mean a lot to us. And we will see you again in a couple months for a new episode of Red Herring Radio. So for Wally, Danger, Walberg, Rick the Ninja, the Natrix, and Just-Levi, this is your host, B-Dizzle. We'll see you next time on Red Herring Radio.
Red Herring's not afraid of cirrhosis.